I'm gonna need Sid not to get his butt beat that easily. If the demo for Final Fantasy XVI is like the full game, then Final Fantasy XVI will almost certainly be not only my game of the year, but also one of my favorite Final Fantasies of all time, and compete for my favorite single-player Final Fantasy. To say I enjoyed that demo would be a gross understatement. The combat, cinematography, music, sound design, story, characters, it was all tailor-made with my preferences in mind. Or at least it felt like that. The story is well-paced, interesting, unique, but also visually striking, and populated by characters I already am invested in and care about after just a roughly 2-hour demo. The plot is gripping and full of twists and turns that act in service of the greater plot to keep me on the edge of my seat and emotionally invested in each of the significant plot points, intermixed with bouts of non-immersive breaking levity that fit with the tone and feel of the world. TORGAL might be the best boy of the last 10 years. He's legit the perfect dog, both as a puppy and as a badass hound in the combat portion of the demo. Seriously, he saves Clive multiple times in that boss fight. The bestest of boys. And you can pet him, and you can feed him treats. What more do you need? Clive is kind of okay in the beginning, run-of-the-mill insert protagonist, but Jesus Christ, his voice actor is top tier. The voice acting overall is incredible, and that is paired with amazing facial animations and the aforementioned cinematography that just pulls you into each of these scenes, chomping at the bit for more. Now, the story is incredible. I expected that. I expected the music to also be incredible. This game, after all, has Yoshi P and Soken behind it. If you don't know who those two people are, you will. You knew those two aspects were going to be incredible because of that. But the gameplay itself is otherworldly. I legit am in love with the pace of the game, the combos you can weave together, and I'm talking about the iconic challenge, by the way, so not the story demo, the combat scenario you unlock after that. The strategy you can invoke on a moment-by-moment basis. I constantly feel like I'm getting better as I get more and more used to the abilities, input, and mechanics of the game. And when you get good at this game, God is it satisfying and rewarding, as you look like an absolute monster, made manifest, ripping and tearing through the enemies in this game. And even the boss fight, Doom Guy would be proud of you. I almost pitied Benedicta at points for how big of a smackdown I was laying down on her in some portions of a boss fight in this demo. The demo gives you access to a castle infiltration section that's not in the story part of the demo, and to go alongside this taste of the full gameplay, it gives you access to abilities in monster forms called icons in Final Fantasy XVI, which you ordinarily wouldn't have at this point in the game. And it does this so you can test these things out. It's a demo after all. And while it's darker than your bathroom in the middle of the night as you try and Jesus take the wheel aim for the toilet, it is a good gameplay demonstration as it contains 2 boss fights, a couple mini-bosses, and a slew of regular enemies to rip, tear, slash, and smash through. You get the Phoenix form, which gives you some fire attacks on top of a gap closer as you charge towards the enemy that you can then combo out of. You get Garuda, which gives you a Mortal Kombat get over here as you grab an enemy and pull them towards you, also opening up combo opportunities, but also gives you a bunch of claw attacks as you rip enemies apart. Doesn't do all that much damage by itself, is a bit prolongated, but it can up that stagger damage multiplier fast, so your other attacks can do giga damage. Titan gives you access to a more traditional parry, with your giant stone arm that you can summon for precise parry timing or just standard blocking, while also giving you some charged attacks that hit with so much ferocity you think you're watching the movie Oppenheimer. Each of these forms have their own place in the sandbox, and none of them feel excessive or extraneous. They all have their own niche and fit perfectly when slotted in with one another, opening up your options significantly. The game is fast-paced, and while not everybody will like it, it's all the better for it as you swap between those icon forms, at no cost, by the way. This is so up my alley, it's almost stupid to say. And you can swap between these icon forms at no cost to alter your playstyle on a moment-by-moment basis to tackle whatever comes at you or whatever scenario you find yourself stuck in. And each of these forms have an additional ability you can unlock and slot in if you so choose to. So you can make different loadouts for yourself. And I like this, honestly, as it gives me access to customize the game to fit my own playstyle, or whatever I think the situation calls for. For me, I largely felt like the default abilities fitted perfectly with what was called for in the demo, though I could see how the other abilities could have been particularly useful in the boss fight, what with Garuda's alternate ability benefiting by timing the dodge correctly for even more damage. There is skill involved with the game, and for me at least, I feel like I adjusted and learned the game pretty fast, and the game rewarded me for doing so, and rewarded me for putting more effort in each step of the way, as I chained combos together and minimized mini-bosses to a Play-Doh consistency as I smashed through them with Titan's abilities, or blocked fire streams with Titan's arms, or slowed down time to lay into them by dodging at precise times, or close distances into groups of enemies to then whirl around in flames with Phoenix, or pull enemies towards me to slash them apart with Garuda. Or I could pull them closer towards me, swap over to Titan, and then hit him with a massive punch. Or I could dash towards a group of enemies, swap over to Titan, and then punch the ground for big AoE, or go to Garuda for a big whirlwind slash, or use the fire whirlwind I have on Phoenix. The gameplay is honestly one of the strongest aspects of a demo, where each component is exceedingly well crafted and strong. And for a game that has taken such a large gameplay deviation from the series before, they needed to nail the combat, and I honestly think they have. It has a pretty high skill ceiling that is fun to learn and get better at, and I want to see what the other icon forms that you can unlock in the base game give access to, and how they flow with one another. Now let's talk negatives. Okay, so the frame rate isn't the best. The combat feels fluid enough, but it definitely isn't a sustained 60. And maybe my Nvidia FPS tracker is off, but for the iconic challenge, you know, that dungeon part of the demo you unlock after the story, I got about 35 FPS throughout, and that was on the performance mode. Now, I have heard that this is an older build from a few months ago that they probably used for the media tour, and maybe it will get upped in the final release, but yeah, in case it isn't, to me, if you're going to do a performance mode, just make it a sustained 60. Like, I don't care about reduced visual fidelity. Give the player the option. It's a PlayStation 5. I'm not gonna have a lot of sympathy on this issue. We shouldn't still be having this conversation. I like having a quality mode or a performance mode to give people the choice, where if they're fine with reduced FPS but higher visual fidelity, give players that option. Because we all have our own different preferences. But my preference is 60 FPS. Now that is mine. It may not be yours, and that is fine. But my preference is still 60 FPS. And we shouldn't still be having this conversation about whether a game in the year 2023 can hit 60 FPS when we're on the PlayStation 5, especially when my console was only running at 1080p, because my capture card can only do 1080p 60. If I was playing the game at 4K, I'd understand it being around 30, but it wasn't. Again, it's not a deal breaker for me, and they may get this fixed with the release of the game, and that might get the game up to 60 if they use a later build, but it is something to keep an eye out for, and that it hopefully gets addressed. Overall, though, the game is on Game of the Year watch for me. And I will say, it was complete comedy on my stream last night, going from 16's combat, and then immediately going over to hop on Final Fantasy 15 on stream. That was an experience. I can only compare, like, that going from 16's gameplay, how smooth and fun it was, to 15, to going from a really nice wood-fired oven pizza with delicious melty cheese and a nice charred crust and a beautiful marinara sauce. Ooh, it's crispy. Ooh, it's lovely. And then immediately following that up with an actual frozen school cafeteria pizza whose crust tastes oddly similar to your math textbook from the previous year. Like, I love Final Fantasy 15 personally. It was my first FF, and it will always have a special place in my heart. But my god, the jump in quality going from that game to 16 is so nice to see. Like, this isn't a put down of Final Fantasy 15 in my opinion. This is what we want to see. You want to see a series learn from its mistakes and try and better itself. Like, that's what you want to see. And I'm happy that we're seeing that here, at least in my opinion. Now, here's my only main questions going into the main game and the full release. So the icon fight we had between Ifrit and Phoenix was visually cool, but mechanically it was uninteresting. It just felt like bootleg Star Fox, where you hold the attack button down and kind of aim it in Ifrit's general direction, and then you hit the dodge button like once maybe every 2 minutes. I think the other icon fights and scenarios need more gameplay interaction, and from what I've seen in trailers, Some of the later fights definitely have that, which is good to see. I think the game overall just needs to sustain this pace. And if they're able to do that, then I'm not going to have any issues. You need to get some iconic abilities like right after where the demo left off to get that variety in gameplay rolling, because going from the iconic challenge where you have 3 different icon forms to play around with, going back to that tutorial story part of the demo is night and day. Like when you only have Phoenix, the combat can be very spammy. When you have multiple icon forms you're swapping between, it honestly doesn't feel spammy to me. And I'm also hoping the pace in the story is hopefully maintained, because the demo was just right to where it wasn't too fast, nor was it too slow. It had good down-to-earth character moments that helped flesh out the cast, in my opinion, but it also had these high adrenaline, bombastic moments that just felt awe-inspiring and cool to look at, and also to play through. I think the game did a really good job of showing off human emotion overall. A lot of those moments felt very natural to me. And the game does get dark, and I love it all the more for it. I don't think it's overused, because it's going to be a dark game, but when they want you to feel shocked or horrified by what's going on, yeah, it lands. It 100% lands. Oh my freaking god, that ffxvi part, you know what I'm talking about. The part at the end of, yeah, you know what I'm talking about if you played it. So good, because this is a revenge story. It's been advertised and marketed as a revenge story, and you need to showcase why Clive wants to go on this revenge tour, or how his motivations are created, and a scene like that works perfectly. It really does, in my opinion. Now, I will briefly talk about this. I did have a discussion with someone in the comments earlier that I do kind of agree with right now, and that is the characters are kind of cookie cutter, at least from the demo, and yeah, half of them died by the time the demo was over, so there's not much time to really flesh them out. And we still have a lot more game to add uniqueness and individuality. We do not have the full story, nor am I going to judge the characters based off of only a 2-hour demo. And there's still plenty of time to add uniqueness and individuality to them. Like, it's not really a concern for me. Like, I trust the writing team to do good work, and I'm happy with what I saw. I'm a Final Fantasy XIV player. I don't have any concerns about the story, the direction, the pacing, or the characters. Like, if it's even half as good as Final Fantasy XIV in that department, well, fine. It's going to be a good game. It's just a conversation to, like, put a pin in and revisit later on to talk about how they either added uniqueness to the characters and talk about the storytelling techniques they invoked, or if they didn't, we can talk about that then, and we can talk about that as well. But right now, I'm really happy with where the story is, how it set itself up. I'm very interested in the world and the characters so far. I feel like all the pieces are set to really tell a special story here, and a unique one in the Final Fantasy series. I'm super on board. Story-wise, gameplay-wise, the music is a freaking 11 out of 10. Oh my god, this might be Soken's masterclass. That Phoenix Ifrit song, you know the one. Also the music when Titan and Shiva fought, my god. Like, Soken went in the bag for this one. He didn't go just in his own bag, he found someone else's bag, borrowed it, and made it his own, and then went into that one as well. Oh my god, the music is incredible. If I didn't mention this before, my god, the voice acting is an 11 out of 10 as well. Jesus Christ, Clive's VA there at the end.
I'll kill you! I'll fucking kill you!
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm sold. Yeah. They needed to come out swinging for this demo, and they didn't only go out swinging, they came out pulling nothing but haymakers and landing every one of them on the chin. In my opinion. You may have a different opinion to me, and that is fine. We all have had different preferences and our own different wants and desires for what we want out of Final Fantasy XVI, and that's completely fine. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave a like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when I upload and stream in the future, because I'll be covering Final Fantasy XVI in depth on this channel. And what I also want you to do is leave a comment down below with 2 things. 1, what was your favorite thing from the demo? Was it the story, the gameplay? Was it a specific line of dialogue, a character, the combat? What was your favorite thing from the demo? And also, what was the thing that you liked the least, or that you didn't like? Because no game is perfect, everything can do better. And we all have different preferences, so I want to see what all of yours is. So please leave those comments down in the comment section down below. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, go play some video games if you can, and as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.